Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to Get Hit with the Truth. So today we are finishing up my 2023 top 10s in the 147-pound welterweight division, as we are going to look at my number one welterweight in the world, the reigning undefeated, former undisputed, and current unified welterweight champion of the world, Terence "Bud" Crawford. Now, before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel, I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. So, Crawford, heading into the year, was number 2 and was the undefeated WBO champion, a title he won back in 2018. He was coming off of a year where he dominated David Avanesian in December to stay busy after the proposed undisputed title clash with Errol Spence Jr. had fell apart. But Errol Spence was hell-bent on getting that fight made, and in July, it finally happened. The fight that we had been waiting to see for years between Bud Crawford and Errol Spence was finally going to take place at the end of July for the undisputed welterweight championship of the world. And I picked Crawford to win that fight, but I did not realize how easily he would dominate Errol Spence Jr. in that fight. Picked him apart, start to finish, and scored a lopsided 9th round TKO victory in the biggest win of his career, as he became the undisputed welterweight champion of the world, and also became the first man to ever become an undisputed champion in 2 weight classes of the 4-belt era. 1 second. Crawford, after that, Spence activated the rematch clause, which he had, and Crawford was in negotiations for a rematch with Spence. But while that was going on in November, the IBF decided to strip Crawford of the IBF title for not defending against mandatory challenger and interim champion Jerome Boots Ennis. And it was kind of unfair because Crawford was in negotiations with Errol Spence for a rematch, and nothing was ever said about him having to defend the title against Boots. But so in my opinion, they unfairly stripped him without really a warning, and he ended the year as the unified champ. So heading into this year, Crawford is now he's now 36 years old. He is 40-0 with 31 knockouts, and he has 3 of the 4 belts here. There's been a lot of talk about him moving to 154 if the Errol Spence rematch falls through. I think it's going to happen. I think these 2 guys are going to go at it, but I think Crawford's going to end up giving up all his belts, and I think he's going to fight Spence in a rematch at 154. That's my honest opinion, because the excuse train is out there about how Errol Spence was weight drained, even though we never heard anything about him being weight drained when he defeated Yordenis Ugas and Danny Garcia, maybe his 2 most dominant victories since he's been on top, outside of the Mikey Garcia win years ago. But, I mean, dominated Danny Garcia at the end of 2020, right after the car crash, too, a year after the car crash, and we didn't hear nothing about weight draining. Then he waits almost a year and a half to fight Yordenis Ugas, dominates him. No excuses about car crash or weight draining. But after he gets the shit beat out of him, all of a sudden, he's weight drained. I think that's funny, but whatever. And then now, as of today, we saw that he posted that he had surgery, cataract surgery, for his eyes, and he couldn't see the punches coming. I don't understand that excuse either, because he's the one that pushed for the fight to happen, for sure. If he couldn't see and his eyes were bothering him, why didn't he just wait a little bit longer and get surgery early in the year and fight Crawford at the end of the year? All that being said, I think it's a bunch of bullshit. It's to try to take away from Crawford's victory for as long as he can. But I think Crawford will return at 154. And I think him and Spence are going to fight in a rematch. That's what I believe. Crawford will give up all his belts and he won't be ranked at welterweight anymore by the end of the year. But I do believe he's going to be sitting at the top or number 2 or 3 and definitely in the top 3 at 154 by the end of the year, in my opinion. And he might even be a world champion. You know, it just depends on who's available and who he goes after at 154. But I think he could go after Tim Tszyu, Jermell Charlo. I think there's a litany of big fights for Crawford there. But I also think he's going to leave no doubt against Errol Spence first. So that's my opinion on Terence Crawford. Now, the state of the 147-pound welterweight division, as you know, as we wind up with this welterweight division, is, to be honest, I think this is the last year we're going to see Terence Crawford and Errol Spence in the welterweight division. And that's really turning over a new leaf because these two guys have been sitting at the top for the better part of 5 to 6 years now. You know, Errol Spence won his title, his first world title in 2017, the IBF belt, and Crawford won his title at 147 in 2018. So these two guys have really owned the division for a while now. And now the division gets to turn over a new leaf to guys like Boots Ennis, Mario Barrios, Giovanni Santillan, Cody Crowley, Amante Stanionis. There's some good younger fighters that are ready to take over this division. And I'm really excited to see welterweight get, you know, fresh blood in it, even if it's a veteran like Josh Taylor moving up to 147. But it's going to be interesting. I think welterweight is definitely going to go through a change. I think we're going to see some good fights in 20, and we're not going to be, and these guys will not be dancing around Crawford and Spence for very much longer at 147. So should be a good year at welterweight in 2024. Really looking forward to it. And that's it. That's what I got. That's my 2024, or that's my 2023 top 10s as we looked at my number 1 welterweight in the world right now, the undefeated, former undisputed, and current unified welterweight champion, Terence Bud Crawford. And we looked at the state of the welterweight division. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.